Hey, this is Jason Kleberg from the Force 5 podcast, a show that forces a guest to come up with a movie-themed top 5 list topic, and then we reveal our picks on air. Top 5 heist films, top 5 tearjerkers, top 5 movie dogs. Every show you'll be asking yourself, what would be on my list? Guests include directors, screenwriters, actors, podcasters, musicians, authors, and even a professional wrestler. Subscribe to the Force 5 podcast, and you won't just be a listener, you'll be a list nerd. The Force 5 podcast, available wherever you're listening now.
If you're looking for more horror outside of the mainstream, look no further than Unsung Horrors, a podcast about underseen horror movies. I'm Lance.
And I'm Erica. Every other week, we'll cover a horror movie with fewer than 1,000 views on Letterboxd. We'll even give you double feature recommendations to pair with the movies we discuss.
From gothic to shot on video, from slashers to comedies, from giallo to J-horror, we'll cover all the subgenres. So join us as we unearth these hidden gems of horror.
Follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, all at Unsung Horrors, available wherever you listen to podcasts. And part of the Someone's Favorite Productions podcast network.
Wake Up Heavy is a Weirding Way media podcast.
Sonny!
Welcome to Wake Up Heavy, the world's greatest horror movie podcast. In this episode, my weird dad will be talking about
I Dig a Pygmy by Charles Hawtrey and the Deaf Aids. Phase 1, in which Doris gets her oats.
Hello and welcome to Wake Up Heavy. This is Mark Begley, your host, and this is a quick update episode. Got some changes happening.
We all want to change the world. Nothing's gonna change my world.
As well as some updates. And the updates involve me going back. This is something that I've wanted to do for a while. Me going back and updating the audio on the first season of the show when I was recording on GarageBand and laying on the floor and worried about the background noise and talking real low and slow. And once I started using Audacity and some of the other tools involved with that back at the beginning of the pandemic, I thought, I could fix these old files, and just never really bothered to do it. So I've started doing that. I don't know how many I'm going to have to do. I have a feeling at some point I started talking louder, the recordings were a little bit better, and I'm not going to mess with anything after I started using Audacity. So the first 2 episodes, the introductory episode, which I have changed to Welcome to Wake Up Heavy, and the official first episode on Phantasm have been remastered, let's say, for lack of a better term, and I'm kind of using that term because of something else I'm going to talk about in a little bit. They were re-leveled and played around with a little bit on Audacity, and I think at least the vocals, my vocals, Cleo's vocals on the Welcome to Wake Up Heavy episode, the introductory episode, are better. The clips probably aren't going to sound any better because at that time I was recording again on GarageBand and using an open mic system basically, because on Macs you can't record computer sound straight from the computer. I can do that on Audacity now, which is what I do for all my clips pretty much. Anyway, I don't want to get mired in the details too much, but the clips are probably going to sound a little funky if anyone is going to bother to go back to listen to those old episodes that are now remastered, quote unquote. The other reason I bring this up is that I think in replacing these files, I have to play around with things a little bit in Spreaker since they were ported over from SoundCloud. And so they may re-download automatically when you open whatever platform you use. And hopefully it takes place of the old file instead of just having 2 of the same file on there. if that happens, that's why. The other thing that I have updated, and again, this has been something I've wanted to do for quite a while, before the change to Spreaker even, and that is to drop the subtitle of Recollections of Horror. And that is really just to simplify things. I use Wake Up Heavy as my handle on social media. I use that to point people to the podcast. The Recollections of Horror thing was more of a way to tell people early on, hey, this is a podcast about horror movies for the most part. It also helped in search engines to narrow the field down. If you typed in the whole title, this is the only thing that's going to come up. If you type in Wake Up Heavy, it's going to bring up other stuff, things that might just have one or two of those words in the title. I'm not concerned about that anymore. When I made the move to Spreaker, I considered it again and didn't do it because I didn't want people to not be able to find the show again if they needed to. It's been almost a year now since that change happened, so I figured, screw it. Let's just simplify things. And it doesn't mean that I'm abandoning the horror aspect of the show at all. It's just really to streamline and simplify things. I had meant to mention that on Cleo and my last episode and didn't. We just kind of dove right into the movies that we watched. The other thing that I had wanted to bring up, which I almost always miss when it happens, is Wake Up Heavy has been around for 5 years now. The first few episodes went up early August of 2018, which is kind of hard for me to believe. This will be the 136th episode. I think one of those episodes is probably the promo or ad that I have, which I've also updated as well. A few things might not be real full episodes, but that's the total count. When I divide that by 5 years, that's 27 episodes a year. That's about one every 2 weeks. And I was a little bit surprised by that because of how slow things have been going for the last 3 years. But then I remembered in 2019, I think I put out 50-something episodes. I did almost one a week during that crazy year of like really trying to ramp up plays and going on with whatever ideas I had. Why didn't I rent this? The Stephen King series, Women in Horror Month, all that stuff happened in 2019. That's kind of nice though. For me, that's a good number. Every couple of weeks, put out an episode. Whether that's going to keep up or not, I doubt it, but definitely hoping to do an episode a month from here on out. Also, at some point, which I never quite mentioned because I'm not as obsessed with numbers and things, and the Spreaker change ended up having a lot to do with that, and the way that they track plays is way different than SoundCloud, and sort of talked about this on the Welcome Back Vaguely episode, where I think that a lot of the erroneous plays, just false starts from SoundCloud, doesn't happen with Spreaker. You have to listen to a decent portion of the show for it to process as a play, which is nice in a way. It keeps the numbers from being too bloated and incorrect. So I did at some point, probably within the last 3 or 4 months, hit 30,000 plays. I used to announce that over on Instagram. I made a little graphic that had 15K, 20K, 25K. It's a little bit harder to keep track since the plays are split between the old account and the new Spreaker account, but I did realize, oh yeah, I was pretty close when I jumped over, so it had to have happened at some point, and it did. And we're approaching 31,000 plays as I speak. May even hit it today, only 2 plays away. The other change that may or may not happen, and again, something that I've tossed around in my head, especially since I lost Brian Taylor back, pretty early on. I think he stopped doing player images for me when I was still in the first season of the show, maybe had gone to the second season, and the seasons were all jumbled up then. Now I'm just kind of doing a year as a season. So once he jumped ship and I started doing the player images myself, that big Wake Up Heavy graphic that takes up a good part of the left side of the image I considered moving it. I considered shrinking it. I've played around with that a lot and never really liked the look of it in any way. I like that it's that big. Part of it was based on how the SoundCloud players were presented on my website. That's why they were positioned the way they were, and it's become kind of silly because most images for movies or posters aren't square, for one thing, and then a lot of it has to be shifted to the right to avoid that big graphic. Thought about just putting the logo in one of the corners. I may do that. I play around with it and then I miss that big logo. So if anybody has any suggestions about that, a lot of places don't even do anything like that, but I liked that it was different. I like that graphic that he created of that sort of EC comic retro lettering. But I realize that for a lot of the images, it makes it kind of funky. The dimensions are wrong for whatever image from whatever movie I'm using. Sort of works okay when I use an old VHS box that's been folded out. I like the look of that, but that may change as well if I ever find something that I like. For example, for this episode, the construction workers image that I'm using, I tried it both ways, and that one with the big Wake Up Heavy logo looks better. I may change it, though, to have the little master logo in the corner and the title of the episode on there as well. Who knows?
That was Can You Dig It by Georgie Wood. And now we'd like to do All the Angels Come.
I don't really have any movie watching to discuss. Cleo went back to school on the 21st, which was just last week. And the only thing that I watched last week was the Beatles Get Back.
A surprise audience that we might get tomorrow, or
I just thought I'd let you know.
Thank you.
I was going to sit here silent, so no, I'll tell you about it.
On Disney Plus, I watched it twice, and I am just at the start of a third watch of it. The only other thing that I really watched was in relation to that, and because of that, something that I haven't seen in a long, long time was The Magic Christian with Peter Sellers and Ringo Starr.
Sonny!
That's discussed in the Get Back documentary. It's one of the reasons they have to move out of Twickenham Studios because they're getting ready to film Magic Christian there, or parts of it there. It's also why they had this time frame of when they needed to get things done because Ringo was going to be off filming that. And during that 7+ hours, at some point, Peter Sellers shows up, looks and seems completely out of place when he's there, which I always find funny. But I thought, boy, I haven't seen that in forever. And I know I've looked for it recently, probably since that Get Back first came out a couple years ago. And it's just never available to stream anywhere. And I haven't caught it on TCM or anything like that. I know there's a Blu-ray out. But the last time I watched it, which was probably in the early 90s, I didn't care that much for it. And so buying a $30 Blu-ray of it just doesn't appeal for me to watch maybe once every couple of years. I figured, I'll look on that one website that sometimes has movies that it shouldn't have, and it is on there in full. And I thought, what the hell? I'll give it another shot. The first time I watched it, I loved it, and that was on TV sometime in the late 70s, early 80s. I feel like it was early 80s because I was probably already in my big Beatles craze stage. That happened after John Lennon was murdered. The one thing that sticks out for me with that movie is the Badfinger song, Come and Get It.
Will you walk away from a fool and his money? Sonny!
I remember thinking, this is a Beatles song I've never heard before, and couldn't figure out what album it was on or anything about it. I must have missed in the titles, either the beginning or end titles, that it says, Come and Get It, written by Paul McCartney, performed by Badfinger. So for the longest time, I thought that was a Beatles song. I don't know when I realized, it's by this group Badfinger.
That doesn't sound right.
which is a band name that has always kind of felt weird to me. I used to hear it every once in a while on the radio, and then probably that's when I found out that, oh, this is not a Beatles song, it's by Badfinger. And then at some point found out, oh, but it was written by Paul McCartney, which explains why it sounds like a Beatles song. And then probably not until I watched the anthology miniseries, however many years ago that came out, that he had actually recorded a demo of it. And I was like, oh, it's the same exact song, which then I found out were per his instructions. He gave the song to Badfinger for the movie with the express direction that it had to be performed exactly like the demo. I think that Come and Get It is probably one of my favorite songs of all time. I think it's a perfect 2.5-minute pop song. But that was sort of the initial pull for me with Magic Christian, along with Ringo Starr being in the movie. I didn't catch most of the satire. I just thought it was kind of a goofy movie where they do all these stupid things and make other people do these stupid things. Raquel Welch was in it. Had a thing for her back then. But I did enjoy it this time. I think it's quite heavy-handed in its satire, and some of the setups go on way too long, but it is kind of a kick to watch, if for nothing else than seeing Ringo Starr act along Peter Sellers, who I'm not the biggest fan of. And then there's another song towards the end that's also very Beatles-esque by Thunderclap Newman. Wasn't written by any of the Beatles. Every time I hear that song, I think there's a little portion in there that has a very Beatle-y progression in it.
And you know it's right.
But Come and Get It is a song, this is how I quantify it in my head, is a song that when it comes on in the car, on my phone, or any other time I'm listening to my music on shuffle, I never, ever skip it. I could listen to that song probably 10 times in a row and never get tired of it. Part of this also came up because I found something recently due to all this Cambridge and with Sean diving into childhood obsessions. I found something that I never thought I would find that had to do with my Beatles obsession when I was a kid. And so I figured, hey, 7 hours of Beatles talking and singing and creating these songs, and songs that I didn't know were that old, that they were demoing and trying out back then. A lot of Paul's songs, Teddy Boy and Backseat of My Car and John's Give Me Some Truth and Jealous Guy all sort of had their kernels planted back then. George's All Things Must Pass. Yeah, so if you haven't checked out Cambridge and with Sean, go check that out, because you can hear me talk about a little plastic rock ball that I was obsessed with 45 or more years ago that I finally tracked down. And then this Beatles item is another thing, probably be on the next episode that comes out in October. The last thing I wanted to bring up is that I finally managed to get the Black Christmas episode that I was on for the projection booth back in December of 2021. I was having trouble getting that file downloaded and fixed, and I finally did it the other day. It should be up on Patreon already by the time this comes out, and it'll be on Spreaker by the end of this week. That's the last week of August. It's really long. It's almost 4 hours. I think it's like 6 minutes, under 4 hours long. And so with Spreaker and the requirements for ads, there's like 29 ads in it. So probably like 15 or more ad breaks. It's ridiculous. But I kind of have to do it to be in compliance. That's a lot of ads. Go over to Patreon and pay $1 to listen to it without all that, because that's crazy. So anyway, that's finally going up. I think that's the last horror movie from my visit to the projection booth that I hadn't gotten on my own site. So there are 3 interview sections. So I think it's probably about an hour and a half of discussion and 2.5 of interviews. Yeah, it's epic. So check it out. All right, that's pretty much it for this episode. Hopefully get something else watched besides Get Back that I can talk about. So until then, thank you so much for listening. Have a great week. Hopefully things are starting to cool off where you are, if they aren't already. It looks like that's happening here in Fresno pretty soon, and I'm super happy about that. So stay safe, be smart, and don't forget.
Anything can happen when you wake up heavy. Ho, 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 ho.
Wake Up Heavy is a Weirding Way media podcast.
Are you a film fan who loves the ultimate home video experience? Look no further than The Disconnected. Your host, Ryan Verrill, is your go-to source for the latest and most accurate information on home video releases, exclusive interviews with industry insiders and filmmakers, and has established a thriving community where every film and physical media enthusiast feels welcome. From hidden gems to blockbuster hits, The Disconnected brings you insider knowledge and a welcoming space to share your love of cinema. Watch every Thursday night at 9:30 Eastern, 6:30 Pacific for the live announcements show and follow The Disconnected on social media to stay updated. Subscribe to The Disconnected on YouTube or on the podcast provider of your choice and dive into a world where every movie night is an adventure.